up, you guys? Welcome back to Me and TV Reviews. I am your host, Mo, and tonight, y'all, we're going to be discussing All Her Fault. This is episode 4, titled episode 4. I hope you guys have had a wonderful weekend, y'all. It's coming to an end. It is coming to an end, unfortunately. So hopefully you've got enough rest and relaxation in your system to go ahead and kickstart your work week off right, school week off right, okay, whatever it is. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the synopsis real quick, and then we're gonna get right into the episode because this one was pretty good too. So the episode for this one is Detective Alcaraz struggles to balance work and home life and must make a difficult choice when he's tempted by an offer that goes against his morals. The police struggle to connect the mystery marathon man with Carrie and Milo. This one was good. I really did. We got more in depth about what's going on with Detective Alcarez, and I felt really bad for him, y'all. He be struggling, but he has the best intentions, all right? So before my phone died, let me go ahead and get this episode out. So the episode opens with Miriam Esther's grandson stopping by the store to grab some food for Milo. The attendant finds it odd how transfixed he is on the news coverage for Milo while she's ringing up his mac and cheese boxes. He gets several, okay? About 5 or 6 of them things. We're talking about some Kraft macaroni and cheese. This is something that you're going to have to, put on the stovetop, okay? So keep that in mind. But she ends up bringing them up without an issue. But she does take notice of how he's stuck on the TV. Now, side note, I was wondering why he parked all the way on the side of the building where there was no lighting. Well, it's because he had Milo in the car with him. Milo was in the back seat, y'all. That poor pumpkin. But he seems to be having a good time. They seem to be taking, decent care of him. And, Carrie wasn't there because she's on the lam. He ended up telling Milo because Milo was like, why didn't Carrie come? And he was like, well, that's because she's famous. And you remember what I told you about famous people, they can't be out in the public like that. And so he was like, are you famous? And he was like, nah, But both of us can't be famous. And so as he says that, y'all, he ends up pulling out a blicky. Oh, no. But speaking of faces, y'all, Detective Alcarez hits Jenny's line in hopes that Jacob would recognize who this guy is, this marathon man, okay? But it was a dud. And this puts him in quite the pickle because now he's out of options. They have to release that picture to the public, but in doing so, this puts the guy up against the wall because we know, his face is going to be plastered everywhere. So he might, in a panicked mode, end up hurting Milo, okay? Because if you get desperate enough, you might do some crazy things to get yourself out of said situation, or what you feel might be a way to get out, but in fact, it might be digging your grave a little bit deeper. Now, side note, before we go into this next scene, let me just say that I just love his relationship that he has with his wife and his son, him being Detective Alcarez. Y'all, him and his wife are in the bed, and they're discussing concerns about him getting into Sam getting into this great school for kids with learning disabilities, right? So apparently, I believe Sam might have some sort of autism, right? And so he's pretty much, for the most part, not able to speak or communicate what he needs. And so usually, they have to go off of context clues sometimes. Sometimes they just have to guess it until Sam says yes or no. Sometimes Sam is able to point, which is great. But they just love him so dearly, and they're so patient with him, and I just love it. And so they're in bed and they're talking, and he's saying how, he's kind of glad that Sam is how he is because he's not an a-hole. And that's a really good way to look at it, because if you're an a-hole, then 9 out of 10 times your parents might be one, or, they might not be able to control you or, help fix you and mold you into somebody that's a little bit better characteristically. And so sometimes because of those characteristics, we get into very poopy situations, okay? So he's glad that Sam is how he is, but they do want the best care for him in his condition. And so they're really stressing about him possibly getting into this school called St. Mark's. Now, apparently, there is a lottery out, and I believe they've got some close friends that they know that may also be vying for the same position. Y'all, they're only giving away one spot. And I don't even think the tuition is fully covered. You know, them places like that, God, it's so expensive. But the hope and the prayer is that they get him in, okay? And so Rissa ends up calling him. Well, the next morning, Detective Alcarez's wife, she has to go to work, okay? So this leaves Detective Alcarez to take Sam to school, which is fine, right? So he's doing a little bit of work from home, and every time he says ring, ring, this is Sam's cue to go ahead and go grab that bag of Skittles, okay? Or bag of jelly beans. I think it's a bag of Skittles. Go ahead and grab that bag of Skittles so Daddy can go ahead and have this very important conversation that he needs to have. So Sam had got his Skittles, and Detective Alcarez is trying to talk to Rissa because Rissa done called him up to see if there's any updates, right? And so he tells her about releasing the photo, which she's kind of uneasy about because, you know, if we release this photo, then he's going to be able to see it and know that his face is everywhere. And if he sees it, then what if he ends up hurting Milo? Now, for whatever reason in her, now I get it, you know, she's going through a lot. She's very stressed out. But her logic is this guy isn't Carrie. See, at least when we knew that Milo was possibly with Carrie, based off of how good she interacted with Jacob, we knew that she would never hurt Milo. And I was like, that's such a foolish logic to have, because what? This is a lady on the run now for kidnapping a child. She could have easily kidnapped Jacob too. Okay. So he reassures her that this is the best decision to make for now. And in the process of him doing so, Sam comes over, right? Now, normally he's pretty good about being quiet while he's on the phone, but they made sure to let us see that Sam sometimes, you know, likes to go a little rogue, okay? So he went over there and got in his daddy's lap, and, you know, he's trying to play with him. He like, chill out, son, you know, I'm trying to make this phone call. We can play in a minute, okay? So he's trying to give him the shh. And she hears Sam in the background. Okay, so he tries to hurry up and get her off the phone. And I was like, why? I guess the way that I saw it initially, it was a little off-putting because it made it seem like he was ashamed to have people know or hear that his son has disabilities. Okay, so I was a little put off by that initially, but I think it's now looking at it the second time, I think it's just because, you know, he wants to try to keep things as professional, and he's not sure if this is going to trigger Rissa. So I was like, okay, I'll give you a little bit more courtesy, but it still didn't sit well with my spirit, just a little bit. So we see while they're praying that he wins this lottery spot, because the staff, when he gets ready to drop Sam off at school, y'all, the staff is overworked and overwhelmed. The ratio in that classroom is like 1 to 15. 1 being the teacher, 15 being the students, and they all got special needs. And the needs vary, okay? So we get a flashback of a call from his connect at the potential school, right? And this guy who he knows wants him to use his long arm of the law to make a situation go away for a good colleague of his at work. Now, his colleague has a son who just got arrested for a DUI or something like that, underage drinking, something that he shouldn't have been doing with alcohol involved. Or no, it was pills, excuse me. And so they were saying that he was supposed to be selling some pills that he had apparently, copped from his mom's medicine cabinet or something like that. It's supposed to be some Xannies, but when he got busted, he was telling the police officers that it's Tylenol. But he was walking around with the bottle claiming that it was Xannies just so he could look cool in front of his friends. And so Detective Alcaraz was like, yeah, he said that to y'all, but the reality is he probably lying to y'all. He just saying that so he won't get in trouble with y'all. But he probably did have a whole bunch of Xanax in there, in the bottle. And so I love the fact that he kept his morals about himself, right? Because this guy was really wanting to have him do away with the evidence altogether because they hadn't sent it out for testing. And so he was like, well, what, can't you get rid of this for my friend? He is, the dean of admissions or something like that. And I was like, why are we doing this? But I didn't even have to say nothing because he was like, why would I give a kid who already got several advantages, why would I give him another one? Just so my son could get the minimum educational needs that he has met. That doesn't even make sense. But that's how society allows those who were always ahead to maintain that exact position, to be ahead, while the rest of us just try to make sure we clear the checkpoints. Okay. He said, look, I'm not the type of cop. So if you're looking for somebody to do away with his shenanigans, you need to call somebody else because I'm not your guy. So he ends up heading to the office, and in the process, he gets in the car, and then we start to hear that they're blasting the information about the photo being released everywhere. And so he gets to the office, and there's really no updates. Despite them releasing the guy's picture to the press, nothing significant came back from the car. There are several prints on the outside of the passenger side, but that's because, several people, different teachers and all of that, usher the kids in and out of the cars during pickup and drop off. And no new leads come of the interviews at the Shake Shack. They interviewed like 4 different people, and they all said that the nannies came in together. They seemed to be cool with each other or whatever, but aside from that, they couldn't really give them anything else. And majority of the tips coming in are just people offering their opinion that this is an inside job. The parents are in on this. So just then, they get word that Miriam Esther has entered the group chat with a little bit of info, okay? So we learn from her that the guy that we saw her in the picture with, his name is Cal D. Smith. And apparently she had took him in as a foster parent when he was 16 years old, right? So she took him in when he was 16 because his auntie had OD'd on Oxy. Now, apparently where he grew up at, South Shore or something like that, y'all, it's a really rough neighborhood, okay? But despite him growing up in that rough neighborhood, she said that he was always very sweet. He was always very quiet, very reserved. And she said through a little bit of hard work, he was able to get his high school diploma and snag a job in construction, although he had no clue how to do anything when it came to construction. Okay, the only thing he knew how to do was put his hard hat on and go get his steel toe boots. That's all he knew. And so, it was a job. It paid the bills, but barely, okay? Because in this economy, baby, you can have a really good job and still be barely scraping, okay? So he ended up turning to selling oxys, which I thought was crazy because it's like your auntie OD'd on it, but that ain't right, y'all. It's not right what he doing. Maybe he could have, got involved in like a weed farm or something like that. I don't know, but not those. Anywho, he got hemmed up, y'all. The law caught up to him, and he had to do 6 years in lockup. But aside from that, she doesn't know anything about him having a girlfriend, let alone it being a girl named Carrie. Okay, so they end up showing her a picture, and they was like, you recognize this lady? And she was like, no, I don't know that lady. And I was like, but do you though? Because the look on your face says otherwise. I wonder if they was picking up on that. But when they do a little bit of digging, it turns out a week before Cal was released from prison, he had never had any visitors up until that week. His one and only visitor happened to be Caroline Finch. So now they want to go speak to his bunkie to see if he knows anything or could provide them with any information about what their conversation was based around. So he tells them, when they went to go see his bunkie, he tells them that Cal was pretty reserved, very quiet. He didn't have any love interest that he knew of. But then again, they didn't really speak about those types of things because, we in prison. It really ain't nothing on the outside for us by the time we get out because we done been in here so daggone long. Okay, so to keep the moral high in the cell, we try to avoid those type of sensitive conversations. And so he mentions him having a visitor the week prior to his release, but she didn't come across as, excuse me, y'all, a girlfriend. And instead, she came across more like a cousin or a sister, a family member. And whatever they were discussing, it seemed pretty tense. So they ended up showing him a picture of Carrie. He was like, oh, yeah, that's the girl from the news. And they was like, how you know that? Sir, the only thing that we have time to do is watch TV all day. She's on the news. But make sure y'all get her. Because she deserved to go down for what she did to that kid. So the detectives are doing the detecting. And they decide to go down to one of the construction sites that fits the description before Cal got locked up. And so they ended up trying to talk to this woman before she got on the bus because I can't remember, y'all. I'm going to be honest, okay? I didn't put a special note in for that. But either way, they ended up talking to this lady, and she denies knowing Carrie or Cal. But when she's alone, when she gets on that bus, y'all, she Googles the latest updates, and she laughs at the fake name that Carrie has chosen to go with. Apparently, her real name is Josie, like Josie and the Pussycats. Okay, so since he was thrown into the foster system, I wonder if Carrie might be Cal's sister or his cousin. And the woman on the bus, maybe that's his mama, because she did mention the auntie, but she said that his parents were pretty much non-existent. Even though they're non-existent, it doesn't mean that they're not still alive. So maybe that's his mama. I don't know. Now, Detective Alcarez pops over to Rissa's house, and she mentions that Peter had went to go run some sort of errand. I can't remember. But they always make sure that one of them is at the house, just in case somebody pops up with important information. So he brings up the fact that neither one of them seems to have any connection to Cal nor Carrie, and he questions whether Peter would actually try to handle a ransom by his lonely without telling her. And so she was like, no. He would never do anything like that. Like, we're together in this thing. If I move, he's gonna move just like that, and vice versa. He not finna try to handle no ransom phone call without letting me know what's what first. And so she ends up telling him, Peter has always been the person to take care of people. And she speaks about Leah and Brian, and then she brings up the accident. Seeing as how Peter was the oldest, I guess he wanted to make sure that everybody was going to be okay regardless. He felt like it was a responsibility of his to make sure that his younger siblings would be straight. But Leah has always felt some sort of guilt surrounding Brian's fall, even though, from what she was told, the fall was completely accidental. Girl, they could be lying to you. Okay, people will tell you whatever they want you to believe, just to paint themselves in a better light. So she then brings up Sam and how she had overheard him on the phone the other day, and he confides in her that he's very concerned about Sam's future as he ages, and with the field that I work in, I see a lot of patients with disabilities, and oftentimes, their caregivers are parents or maybe even grandparents, sometimes great grandparents, but somebody older than them oftentimes, and it's really rough because that's always a concern that pops up. And things are good initially, but anything can happen at any given moment. The caregiver or the parent can get hurt, they could pass away, and so that's always in the back of your mind. What would happen to my kid or my loved one if something were to happen to me? And so he's very concerned about it. And he's more concerned because Sam is not able to articulate what may be happening to him. What if he gets sick? What if there's something hurting him on the inside and he can't tell us what's wrong? We can't read his mind. And so we just have to look for cues. And so it's very upsetting for him to talk about. And so he switches it back to Cal, and he mentions Miriam Esther's connection to Cal and how she was his foster parent and she was really sweet to him and he loved her dearly. And Rissa is immediately like, oh, I didn't know that she was his foster parent. Like, that's crazy, considering the fact that I just saw her the other day. Oh, I definitely need to go have a conversation with her. We need to have a discussion right now. But before she does, he highlights to her that Miriam Esther was the only person who treated him with kindness and was really nice to him. Now, surely, on the worst day of your life as a parent, it's no coincidence that he sent you to her, right? Considering the fact that she was the nicest person that he knew. I was like, yeah, okay, so maybe me and you are on the same wavelength. Maybe you think that Miriam Esther is tied up in this in some kind of way as well. So he goes to pick Sam up from school, right? And we see firsthand just why his concerns for Sam's future are very valid, because his teacher says, look, man, you ain't gonna believe the day I had. Now, I was gonna call you or your wife, but Sam has been an angel today. Okay, he was the only one that wasn't acting up today. She said that, poor baby, Sam was over there working on a puzzle for 2 hours. 2 hours, y'all. Because, she was ripping and running, trying to make sure that all the other kids were situated. The other kids were needing some more of her time and attention today. And thankfully, Sam was okay by himself today. But for 2 hours, 2 hours is too long. Too long to not be getting the attention that you deserve to try to be a better person, considering. And so, no. He decides to go against his moral compass and get rid of that evidence for his friend at the school. So, like I said, it's not right. It's not right, y'all, what he did. But sometimes, and he said this earlier in the episode, sometimes even the best people do messed up things depending on the situation. Would y'all have done that? I don't know, y'all. That's real tough. That is really tough. All I know is, what I will say is, if I did do something like that, which I'm kind of leaning towards, I might. I just might. For my baby. I would do anything for my baby. I would. All I know is, if I did do that, my baby better be getting his acceptance letter in the mail tomorrow. Do you hear me? It better be getting mailed out with overnight service. Overnight shipping, okay? Because what we not finna do is be breaking the law and being complicit to your crimes for you to just turn around and tell me, no, he didn't get in. See, I would be... Listen, if you told me he didn't get in after I did that for y'all, I would be pulling y'all over every chance I got. But then the concern becomes, okay, you done broke the law this one time for this particular person. What if something else pops up because this is his kids? What if something else comes up and then they giving your phone a ring again? Hey man, we need to get you out of there. Yeah, I need you to get us out this jam. And if you can't do it, then Sam might be going back to that old school that you hate. It's a tightrope, y'all. That's my concern. I don't know. So Detective Alcarez is tossing and turning in bed all night because it just ain't sitting well with his spirit, the decision that he done made. When he ends up getting a phone call from his partner talking about, oh man, you made the right decision. And I was like, okay, is this the guy from the school? No, this is his partner. And he was like, man, you decided to go ahead and release the picture and we got a name. And now we got more evidence. We got our biggest lead yet. So they head to the store where I knew that clerk was going to notice something, y'all. And so she tells them about Cal coming in. And so she tells them, that he had bought a particular brand of mac and cheese, one that requires it to be cooked on the stove and not warmed up in the microwave. Now, when I tell y'all Detective Alcaraz beyond it, because he was like, okay, did he get the Kraft mac and cheese with the single bowl edition, or did he get the box? Because there's a difference. And she was like, oh, he got the box. Come on. Okay? Because we know that bowl can be put in the microwave. You put a little bit of water in it. Now, you do got to put a little bit of extra love in it. A little pepper, a little extra cheese. Okay, I'm not... Whatever. So, he is doing all the necessary work to prove that he is a good detective. Despite his most recent crookedness. So they decide to look across the street, and lo and behold, there are some lakeside properties over there. So they go to speak to the property manager. This is the lady that we saw the other night that was knocking on Carrie's door, and she was looking at the TV and looking at her, looking at the TV, looking at her. Okay, you got your 150? Oh, okay. Thank you. In my hand right now, please. If you got enough money, she'll be quiet. So she ends up denying that Carrie was Carrie because the woman that she saw had darker hair. And she was all dolled up. Her words, not mine. I was like, girl, a little bit of makeup and a wig. So now you thinking that this ain't the same person? So she ends up letting them look inside the property. And you could tell that nobody ever taught them to respect the space, respect their living quarters, because that place was trashed, y'all. Trashed. Like a rock and roll band had just came up in there and just trashed the place. Okay? Like this was like peak 80s. So anywho, or maybe the place looked trash because a struggle took place there. So he turns on the TV and we see that there are cartoons that pop up on the screen. I was like, okay, come on. Detective Alcarez, top tier, y'all. Top tier work. He did have his gloves on too. So he noticed that there's cartoons on the screen. He notices that there's a bowl of mac and cheese in this thing. Okay, get forensics up here. Go ahead and tell them to come on so they can start, fingerprinting and gathering all the evidence. And on the cabinet, y'all, he notices some blood splatter. But did y'all happen to notice that when on the side of the sink, when they pan the camera down, there was this one spot that was very discolored. And it looked like it might have been like some blood or something right there. Okay, because one side of the linoleum was white. Like this, like when you move into a new spot and the floors ain't gotten messed up yet. Yeah, it looked like that. Versus the discoloration, the dark discoloration that looked like it might have been some blood that was cleaned up, right? They forgot to use the peroxide. So he's noticing all the things, and then he gets a phone call from his wife, and it's the news that they've been waiting on. Their baby done got into St. Mark's. Okay, this is great news, and she's so excited. Look, I don't know how this happened, but oh my goodness, thank goodness this is the best news that we've received thus far, this, that, and the third. And so she's just going on and on. Like she is just in a pure moment of elation, right? And so while she's talking to him and she's so giddy, it seems like it's going to be somebody else's darkest moment, because the dive crew comes back to the surface to let them know that they found a body. And that's the way the episode ends, y'all. Oh, it was good. Damn, that seemed short, didn't it, y'all? I'm sorry. It seemed short. Let me see how long this was. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this was short, but it was good. Like I said, Detective Alcaraz is a good man. Okay. He's probably the only good one on here. Y'all, well, maybe not after this most recent decision, but what would y'all have done? Would y'all have turned corrupt if it meant the betterment of your child, trying to get them into a better position? Because he's a special needs baby. He needs love. He needs the attention. I mean, not saying that all the other kids don't, but I don't know. Y'all think I might have went a little corrupt. But either way, y'all let me know what y'all thought about that part. Also, and I know y'all probably don't watch it, but for those who are coming along with me on this journey, who do y'all think is in the water? I don't think it's Milo, because it's too early in the game for them to try to hopefully Milo makes it out. I don't think he will, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you, but hopefully he does. But even if he doesn't, I still feel like it's too early in the game to be putting his body up like that. Okay. It's probably Carrie. I do think this is Carrie, but we'll see. All right, that's it, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? You can reach me at Me and You TV Reviews on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach me at My TV Reviews Podcast without the S on the end at gmail.com. I love y'all, okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful start to your week. Y'all, please stay safe out there. I'm going to try to get one more episode out before the weekend ends, but I cannot promise anything. But I surely do appreciate all of the new listeners on here on the podcast and also on YouTube. Okay. I've been trying to be more consistent about posting videos over there, but the podcast is always going to be the first priority. Okay. So that's it, y'all. I know y'all listening, but can you please just go ahead and hit the follow button as well? And if you are feeling very generous, go ahead and leave a review too. All right. I love y'all. Y'all stay safe out there. And until we meet over the airwaves again, I am Mo, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.